Half-Life 1 modding is perhaps surprising to some, doing pretty well. Even about a quarter of a decade after its release, new mods are still being pumped out pretty regularly. And I must note, a ton of these are of really high quality. There are a few classics that I don't want to get too deep into now, because I'm sure I'll cover them more thoroughly someday in the future. Today we will be taking a look at one specific mod though, one many might consider to be the best Half-Life 1 mod ever made. Field Intensity. I'll be reviewing, analyzing and summarizing the mod, and will try to answer the question if the title of the best mod ever made is warranted. As always, I recommend you to play the mod for yourself before you watch my video. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Before we do that, 95% of you aren't subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Now, a bit of a preface to most Half-Life 1 mods. If you go ahead and play a Half-Life 1 mod, in about 90% of the cases, the entire story consists of Escape Black Mesa, which is totally fine by the way. Half-Life 1 mods are for the most part just fun arena shooters where you get to marvel at great level design. And getting to marvel at great level design we do. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. The reason I mention this is because Field Intensity actually features a bit more story than most mods, which I think is a pretty impressive feat. The game starts off with a cutscene showing us multiple military vehicles driving into the Black Mesa facility. The facility obviously already being fully overrun by Zen creatures. Now, there is the no cutscenes in Half-Life argument that I agree with most of the time, and I do think these cutscenes weren't particularly needed. For a cutscene intro, it is done pretty well though, and is actually important later on. In this intro we learn that we are Stefan Oldfield, a AGCU corporal. It's here that you'll notice that there are actually subtitles. You might never have thought about it, but Half-Life 1 actually has no option for subtitles. So it's pretty impressive that this game does have them. This can be toggled alongside a lot of cool new settings that you can configure as you'd like. You might notice that the first voice character we meet, well, at least kinda meet, is voiced by Richter Overtime. He actually did a pretty good job, I must say.
Your squad's almost arrived at the destination point. According to our map, the elevator to the level 3 dormitory should be somewhere nearby.
I didn't even notice it was him when I first played this mod. Oftentimes, YouTubers sound out of place when they're voice actors in mods.
It is with a heavy heart that I'm informing you that we have made a strategic decision to surrender.
Here this wasn't the case though, and actually the voice acting in this mod is really good, like official quality good most of the time. This character we hear on the radio is called Kevin. He seems to be an old friend of ours.
Guess who's your radio operator, Stefan? Yeah, it's me, your old friend Kevin.
He will be guiding us through the facility. Our goal right now is to find our squad at the destination point. Now, I won't be telling you about like every room we enter and stuff, since this mod is actually really long. It's somewhere between 5 and 10 hours long according to the ModDB page, which I found to be accurate. Don't worry though, all important details and story beats will be mentioned. We get a mission brief when we press tab, alongside our thoughts and hints, which is a nice addition. After opening a door, we move into a garage where Kevin tells us to follow our squad engineer, who's called Francis as we learn from the mission briefing. I'll mention it as often as possible without sounding like I'm just repeating myself, but damn, this is seriously nice looking level design when it comes to Half-Life 1 mods. While riding down the elevator we get reminded of the mission being no witnesses. We hear Kevin talking about Gordon Freeman. He mentions how the talks are that he's responsible for this mess. The AGCU has apparently sent a squad to his dormitory according to Kevin. Now, besides simply good looking level design, another thing that makes a good Half-Life mod is environmental storytelling, which is something we find a lot of in this mod. Shortly afterwards we enter a room here, which some of you may know. This pool is seen in Half-Life Decay. Moving further we even get to catch a glimpse of Colette Green and Gina Cross on their adventure. We also get a new hut for our squad, where we even see their HP. This is a huge improvement to how it worked before and makes building a squad way more intriguing. There are even different colors and symbols depending on what kind of unit is following you. We actually see Eli Kleiner here as well.
What's happening? Great God! Kleiner, stop!
You might be beginning to notice that this mod enjoys a reference or two. Oh boy, when I tell you we haven't even started yet. Also, we meet up with Francis again. This mod truly is really detailed. There are also new enemy variations, like this construction worker zombie here. In case some of you haven't played a lot of Half-Life 1 mods, there is a construction worker NPC found in the files that is often used in Half-Life 1 mods. This mod is the first one I've seen making a headcrab variation of them though. Right afterwards we get to take a peek at the cut Stuka beds, which we see just hanging out. Kevin tells us about our new objective, which is getting to Sector E, because that is where Freeman will be turning up next. The AGCU needs him alive for questioning. He advises us to be careful, since Freeman has already taken out a ton of units. We then meet up with our squad again as we move through these flooded dormitories, which were also previously seen in Half-Life Decay in the chapter Domestic Violence, just unflooded. We also find the Deagle here. You know, I have some suspicions about good old Francis here.
Shit, the power is off in this area. There should be 2 generators somewhere. I hate power generators.
A very clear reference to Francis from Left 4 Dead, who's known for clearly stating the things he hates.
I hate hospitals. I hate subways. I hate stairs.
We lose our squad again. Kevin chimes in and tells us that we have arrived in Sector E, though we are on the complete opposite side of where Freeman is. We hear about a gargantua that is in our way, and we find a new type of snark, which are basically just snarks on steroids. They have a bit of a bigger explosion than the normal snarks. It's great to see custom weapons in a Half-Life 1 mod. This is also only one of 2 custom weapons seen in this mod. We'll get to the second one later. We will also eventually find every weapon seen in Half-Life 1 and Opposing Force in this mod as well. It's here that we also find a new HEV suit zombie and get to catch a glimpse at Dr. Keller, who's a character of Half-Life DK as well in case you didn't know. We also find the HEV suit here. We don't put it on though. We do however give Kevin the information that they have tracking devices on them, which leads to the HECU being able to track Freeman. So we are actually the reason Gordon Freeman started being tracked in Half-Life 1, if you are to add this mod to your headcanon. This mod manages to fit in a ton of puzzles for a Half-Life 1 mod, which is great to see. We find 5 people of a different squad here, who all die shortly afterwards. We also get a reference to Barney reaping havoc through a mention from Kevin.
It appears Freeman is not the only pain in our butts. Some security guard rescued one of the important scientists we captured before.
Our next mission we receive is finding Dr. Rosenberg in the old labs. We also find a new squad that dies immediately afterwards as well. This makes the squad system sound kinda pointless, but trust me, hold on just a bit. We then face off against the cut Kingpin enemy in a small boss fight, which I actually really enjoyed. Small mention of Aperture Science here. We also see this poster here, which shows the room we saw in that one G-Man cutscene in episode 2, which we'll get to in a short second. Black Ops arrive at this point. We then see Otis almost managing to talk to a Vortigaunt. He still escapes narrowly though. Apparently, we are currently at some sort of printing press of Black Mesa, which is an interesting concept I think. We then get to see something we haven't ever seen in Half-Life before. We see Zenflora teleporting in and growing. I think this sequence was great. We also get to peek inside the room we saw in that G-Man cutscene. Now, obviously I think the room in that G-Man cutscene was supposed to be the one we saw at the beginning of Half-Life 1, but to be honest, they really flopped the design. Besides the general structure, it looked nothing like the one at Half-Life 1. They could have just ported it in and retextured it a bit. Perhaps not even that. At the beginning of Half-Life 2 we see an almost unchanged version of the teleporter room of Half-Life 1 in the intro sequence. Why they changed this room so much in episode 2 is something I don't really get. This mod now basically makes a claim that it was never meant to be the Half-Life 1 room, but an entirely different one, which I think is honestly the best idea to kind of remedy its design in episode 2. Entropy 02 tried as well by changing it to be a room of a different facility, but I think this one stays the most true to the lore. It was also at this exact moment that I realized how great this mod truly is. Not to mention the perfect level design and great combat this mod features. It's also the fact that it's noticeable that this mod was done by true fans of Half-Life that really know deep intricate details like this. The fact that they knew this could remedy the cutscene of episode 2 and that people would be excited to see this room here. Now, obviously my criticism of that cutscene in episode 2 is purely my opinion. I know a ton of people don't have any problem at all with it. It's just something that's always irked me a tiny bit. We then meet up with an engineer who opens the door and find out we are actually the same HECU that stormed the teleporter room in Blue Shift. We immediately get blown up, just like everyone did with those units. We wake up again though and catch a glimpse of Barney teleporting away, after which we jump into the portal as well. We see a Panther Eye, another cut enemy. We then teleport into a small side room and see G-Man. Then we teleport right into the arms of Black Ops soldiers. Finally we teleport outside in front of some scientists. You might be able to help me here. I think I know this area here from some other mod or perhaps Half-Life game, but I can't recall. If you have any clue, let me know in the comments. We then get dragged away and actually see Corporal Shepard. This is a reference to Opposing Force. We are supposed to be this guy right here seen at Opposing Force. How cool of an idea is that? We wake up again and receive a new weapon, the portable medkit. We can heal NPCs and ourselves using this. They also did a great job at staying true to the timeline of events, those being the Opposing Force starting right around the time Blue Shift ended. We also received a flashlight here, which is a nice change from the night vision. I have also never seen both in the same mod I think. We also come across this security guard, which is also seen in the Opposing Force, where we see him talking to G-Man. This mod really did miss out on any out-of-bounds areas to reference. I could see some people perhaps not enjoying this, thinking that just doing references does not make for a good mod. But this mod would have been a 10 out of 10 without any of these references. They are just fun additions to an already great mod. They somehow managed to make none of them feel forced. We meet up with Otis and fight a couple of aliens. I haven't really mentioned it specifically before, but pretty much all enemies seen in Opposing Force also make an appearance here. But that is nothing new really if you have ever played Half-Life 1 mods, as most of them make use of the Race X aliens. We find a new radio. Kevin is glad that we are alive and tells us to meet with Team Bravo and move out. Our mission is to escape now. We then hear shooting over the radio, followed by silence.
What the hell? Guys?
Kevin's fate now unknown. We now begin building a bigger and bigger squad, which is honestly so cool, especially with this reworked squad system. You really want to keep these guys alive, which is very much possible, especially if you manage to keep your medic alive. They will heal damaged units back to full health. I really enjoyed this part and quite often think about it ever since I played this mod about a year ago. We also walked through the tunnel we saw in the intro, and will actually move down here as well. We find a baby gargantua, which I think was introduced in Sven Co-op, but I'm honestly not sure. There are also these little fellas, which are called flocking floaters. Another cut enemy. Our whole squad dies once again, though this time it took a lot longer until it happened. All good things must come to an end. We receive the Barnacle grappling hook gun and enter Zen. Zen was fine in this mod, I think. There were some fun lab levels after a Gonark fight. One of my favorite parts of this mod begins here actually. We have to use the Barnacle grapple to climb across islands. It kinda reminded me of like PS2 games or something. We also catch a glimpse of some holographic HECU. More on that later. We then fight against the Kingpin again. After fully beating him, we open up a portal and teleport back to Black Mesa. Also, surprisingly, we hear Kevin over the radio again. He is surprised that we are still here as well. He mentioned that the evac failed for both of us, and that he would like to come fight us, but he's a little stuck. I'm not sure if this was intentional, but besides Kevin contacting us again, the entire facility is incredibly empty. We only find dead bodies. It's such a stark contrast to the Zen levels just before and the 10-man squad we had with us before that. Now it's all just silent. Right afterwards we walk over a location seen in Half-Life DK. All the action has happened already. We are simply left behind now, our only friend being Kevin. Right afterwards we find out the reason everything is so quiet. Black Ops. These guys have actually been reworked heavily in this mod. They're even able to throw flashbangs. We then find a new 3-person squad and move to the Half-Life DK area. We fight off against shock troopers here for the first time as well. Kevin talks to us a bit, reminiscing about old times in training. Shortly afterwards we find Black Ops zombies, which are a really cool idea as well. We then find a pretty cool buddy, a suited scientist that we have to lead through fire and stuff because his suit is resistant to everything. He will then open a door for us to get to him.
I'm slowing you down, am I?
This repeats a couple times. I really like this part. We also received the displacer here. Sometime later, Kevin mentions that he finds himself trapped in a dark corner and that it's getting tighter and tighter. He tells us that we should keep fighting until the end though. Kevin continues talking in vaguer and vaguer ways. He then mentions that there is a one-sided door between us and that we shouldn't step into it. We find a truck that is missing its key and gas. After a pretty cool crane level that actually features the trade crane from Half-Life 2 and a boss fight against a tank, we arrive at the room Kevin was staying at. Kevin is dead.
Hey, Stefan. It's me, Kevin. Here I am on the ground, lying motionless, breathless, lifeless. I know it's hard to comprehend, but it's the truth. You'll have to accept it. I guess I just wanted to accompany you a little bit longer. Or well, you wanted to be accompanied by me. Anyways, take these keys. That truck is your only hope of getting out of here. As for me, I'm staying. I can't help you anymore. Try to get home safe. Goodbye, my friend.
Kevin is and has been dead for a while. Now, while it can obviously only be speculated, I believe he died when we first heard those gunshots. When he came back after Zen, it was during a time where we found ourselves alone and probably really disturbed from what we just witnessed in Zen. I'm not sure if the hologram we saw in Zen had something to do with it, but I honestly don't really think so. I actually don't really know what the hologram was supposed to mean. Looking at the footage, it was Kevin we were seeing. Perhaps it was the Kingpin using him to guide us to its lair. But that's just speculation. Replaying this section, like everything past Zen, you'll notice that each time Kevin talked, it was all just relating to our situation. Him talking about being in a dark space and continuing on fighting. Talking about old times, which was probably just self-soothing behavior from us. Reminding ourselves of fun memories in these tense times. Past Zen, you will also notice how we never hear from Kevin when we are with the squad, or anyone for that matter. It's always as soon as we are alone where nobody else could hear him. Kevin was simply a voice in our head trying to calm us down. This is the most interesting piece of story and probably biggest twist I've ever witnessed in a Half-Life 1 mod. The twist being it's all in the head. God, I really am just a cheap pyrocynical clone, but with Half-Life and German. After receiving the key and gas, we go back to the truck after a gargantua fight and drive off. We see ourselves driving through the ruins of Black Mesa, filled with Zen and Race X creatures. Once finally on the road away from Black Mesa, the nuke goes off. Our truck gets engulfed in the flames, to which the credits roll. But hold up, just like the Marvel movies, every mod now has a post-credit scene. In this one, we see ourselves laying on the ground in front of the crashed truck, to which G-Man comes over to our body. He just stands there, to which we get thrown back to the main menu. Field Intensity is the best Half-Life 1 mod ever made. Obviously, that's just my opinion, but I think it truly is. It feels like the Entropy 02 of Half-Life 1 mods. I'd actually go as far as to say Field Intensity is generally even better than Entropy 02 in terms of being the better mod for their respective game, but there's obviously no actual reason to compare the both really. They both are incredible. I kinda just wanted to express how great this mod is in Half-Life terms most of you will probably get, even if you don't play a lot of Half-Life 1 mods. To get a bit more specific, the level design is absolutely flawless. There is not one point where I thought anything other than this is awesome. Well, perhaps a tiny bit right at the start of Zen, but I'll give it that minor 2-minute hiccup in a total of like 7 hours of playtime. The voice acting is really good across all boards. They even went ahead and used some unused sounds for Eli, Dr. Kleiner and other characters we saw some glimpses of in this mod. Voice acting is often the stain on a mod's reputation, but in the case of Field Intensity it's actually a big plus because it's so good. The game does not feature a custom soundtrack, which could have been cool, but it totally can do without one. Instead playing the classics of the Half-Life 1 soundtrack. All the references made to all the different Half-Life games is great and perfectly executed. Huge kudos to the entire team behind this mod. If you have never played a Half-Life 1 mod before, this is a great way to start. If you have played Half-Life 1 mods before and have not yet played this one, what the hell have you been doing? Go download it. I'm gonna let the credits roll for a bit. This was my review of Field Intensity, which I by the way give a solid 10 out of 10. Let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, otherwise, thank you for watching.
Wait a minute, and I'll let you in.